morning. Welcome to First Christian Church. We have just a few announcements to share with you today. Thank you so much to all those who helped in any way with our annual Labor Day weekend indoor rummage sale. Whether you donated items, helped set up, worked the event, or shopped, you are very much appreciated. Also, special thanks to those who worked so hard to paint the FCC childcare area this weekend. The children who are entrusted to our care and their families are just going to love it. We had a great time at the Indianapolis Indians game last weekend. We had 34 from our FCC family carpool together to enjoy the game. This Wednesday, we'll be getting together for our midweek Bible studies for all ages. We call this Family Ties. Supper is at 6 p.m. in the FCC Fellowship Hall. Everyone is invited. Suggested donation is $2 per person or $5 per family for the meal. On the menu this week, breakfast for supper. Beginning on Sunday, September 24th, we'll be holding a 3-part mini-conference called Reliance. Everyone is welcome to attend at 9:45 in the Fellowship Hall. We will be talking about the very real struggles people experience with depression, as well as exploring answers in coping and helping others. These dates are different from the ones in your bulletin, so be sure to note that change. Forever Young, our ministry for seniors ages 55 and up, will meet on Monday, September 11th. A pitch-in dinner will start at 6 p.m., followed by a special program. Everyone is welcome. Speaking of our seniors, there will be a great event at Camp Allendale on Tuesday, September 12th. The Fall Teenagers Gathering is only $5, and you'll be able to enjoy special music, lunch, speakers, and more. If you're 55 and up, we'd love to have you. Sign up in the foyer. On Sunday, September 17th, we'll celebrate Back to Church Sunday. We're looking forward to a great service and a breakfast for everyone at 9:45. Be thinking of who you would like to invite. There are more announcements in your bulletin. And don't forget that we keep our church website, Facebook page, and Twitter filled with the latest and greatest happenings here at First Christian Church. That's it for our announcements. Have a great day.
defines obstacles as something that stands in the way or opposes. Something that is between where you are and where you want to be. Life is filled with obstacles, whether they be small, like the construction I drive through every single morning, or they may be large, like the disease that keeps you from being you and what you want to be. Michael A. Gaidos, a columnist for several newspapers, wrote an article about an artist in Mexico. He lost his right arm while carving a statue, which was his primary arm. That led to a lot of frustrations for him, but he didn't give up. He learned to use his left hand. And with that, he built a great statue called In Spite Of. Booker T. Washington was born into slavery. Thomas Edison was deaf. Abraham Lincoln was born of illiterate parents. Alexander Pope was a hunchback, and Julius Caesar was epileptic. All of these men faced obstacles that stood between where they were and where they wanted to go. But that didn't stop them. They overcame them. There are also spiritual obstacles as well. Things that hinder us or stand in our way in receiving God's inheritance for us. These obstacles stand between where we are and where we want to be with our relationship with God. Everyone here knows that we all need to be closer to God. But the question remains, why aren't we? It's because we have something standing in our way. Maybe it's that sin that we keep holding on to. Maybe it's a bad habit we can't kick. We've all grown cold to the things of God. Satan himself is a master at planning obstacles in our way. He loves to do that. He plants obstacles in our way so that we can fail. Well, speaking of obstacles, yesterday, a group of, including myself, a group of 3 other guys, we went to Pioli Peaks and we did a 5K obstacle course. 5K, not too bad. Obstacle course, I don't know about that. It's called the Rugged Maniac. And you have to be a maniac to do it, I'm telling you. Never thought I'd do something like that, but I ended up doing it. A lot of it was, you're at Pioli Peaks, so there's a lot of slopes, up and down hills. It rained the day before. It was awful. You couldn't get a step anywhere. You were falling down. I fell probably 4 or 5 times. Didn't feel good. But we went as a group. We stayed as a group. There were some obstacles where I needed help. There were some obstacles where my teammate needed help. If you don't know, I'm terrified of heights. I mean, absolutely terrified of heights. You can ask my wife. We don't go to roller coasters because of me. We don't do certain things because I don't want to do it because I'm terrified of heights. But the last obstacle was you get up on this wall, and on that wall, so you're already 15 feet high. That's not that high, but then when you have a rope ladder that's like this and nothing underneath of you, and I can fit through this thing, I'm a little bit nervous. So I start climbing this rope ladder up to the top of the slide, so once you go down the slide, it's over. But I have this obstacle before I can finish. I'm shaking with every step I take, and finally, I'm getting closer and closer. Josh was already at the top, and he looks at me and goes, "Shane, are you okay?" "No, I'm not." I'm getting closer to Josh, and he goes, "Here, grab my hand, I will help you." With the assistance of his hand, he helped me get up to the top, and we slid down together, and we finished. Was I glad for that to be over? We're going to kind of look in Joshua today. And it talks about God gives the people of Israel a grand promise, the promised land. And it was flowing with milk and honey. Yet the journey wasn't easy. There were obstacles through the wilderness. They faced natural obstacles, which the Red Sea, the desert, which didn't have much food or water, and then the Jordan River. Then there were the physical obstacles. Enemies, the giants that lived in Canaan. And they had to fight those giants. You see, we all face obstacles in life. But looking at them in a negative way, we get discouraged. And we may want to turn around. You see, when I was on that rope, I turned around. There was about 100 people behind me. I couldn't turn around. I had to go up. But with God, we take life's obstacles as challenges, and we overcome them in His strength. They become stepping stones for us. Opportunities where we experience God's power, and we develop a strong faith in God. The people in Israel had a very long and difficult journey. They have now come to a place very near to the promised land. Just one more step away. God's leading has been great. He provided all that they needed in the wilderness. And now this new generation was about to enter the promised land. Yet, there was one more barrier. One more obstacle, the Jordan River. They needed to get across. See, the previous generation, the fathers and grandfathers, had the experience of crossing the Red Sea. Now, it's their turn to experience God's power in their own way. He is going to lead them across the Jordan River. If you notice in the Old Testament, we read about the people of Israel recalling their history very often, particularly the journey out of Egypt. It was through this journey that they experienced God's power and faithfulness. This historical experience was important. They were able to trust Him today because they had seen God's power and faithfulness in the past. They were able to trust Him today because of their experiences in the past. Today, our obstacle may not be a river. Like I said, maybe a bad habit, an addiction, an attitude. Maybe it's difficulty at work, difficulty in your family. Some kind of obstacle stops you from being at the place God wants you to be, or being the person God meant for you to be. But we can overcome, and we will. In this account of the Israel crossing the Jordan, we learn that God will enable His people to cross the barriers before us. See, when we face obstacles in life, God gives us three things. The first thing, God prepares His people. I'm going to read out of Joshua chapter 1, verses 1 through 9, and it reads this. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them, to the Israelites. I will give to you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. No one will be able to stand against you all of the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, but you may be successful wherever you go. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. If we look at that, we see that God is assuring Joshua. Why did he give so much effort into assuring him? He knew Joshua was struggling. How do we know this? It tells this in 9 verses. It says, be strong and courageous 3 times. And that isn't just 9 verses. So we know that he is assuring Joshua. And he also tells him, you will be prosperous and you will be successful. See, these are the words we want to hear when we're facing an obstacle. God understands. He knows you very well. He knows that you are struggling today, and he is there to help. He will not leave you nor forsake you. But God stressed something that we need to take note of. The underlying principle for success is we must listen to him and walk by his ways. It notes in verse 7 and 8, it says, be careful to obey all of my laws my servant Moses gave you. Do not let this book of the law depart from your mouth. Joshua then prepares the people to cross the Jordan. So God prepares his people, and now Joshua is preparing. Now Joshua turns to the officials and asks them to get the people ready. In verse 11, he goes on and it says, get your supplies ready. 3 days from now, we will cross the Jordan. God will prepare his part. Man will prepare their part. God has his promise, but man must do his part. And that's to obey the word. This time, the Israelites didn't hesitate. Joshua was ready. He trusted in God. If it is God's will, he will grant us the resources to overcome our obstacles and reach our destination. In our ministries as well, the devil will lay down obstacles and barriers to stop us. But we can overcome. God will prepare us emotionally and physically. Like he says, be strong and courageous. Crossing over may not be easy. It requires faith. It's so much easier not to do anything. The Israelites could have stayed in the wilderness. But then we're not enjoying all that God has blessed us with. Our life can be more blessed. Our ministries can grow stronger. Our work more rewarding if we take this step of faith and do greater things for God. The second thing God provides for us is, during our obstacles, is he challenges our faith. In chapter 3, if you go on Joshua, they are finally about to cross the Jordan River. They've heard that what God has promised. They have been prepared for everything that they need. Now all it takes is faith. How are they going to cross a river without a boat? without a bridge. Faith. In Joshua chapter 3, verse 5, it says that Joshua told the people, "Consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you." To me, that takes a lot of faith to say, tomorrow what's happening, guys? And really not know or see it happen. It takes a tremendous amount of faith. To walk with God, they need to put aside their fears and doubts. To see the work of God, we need to put away our sins, our habits, our attitudes that keep us from serving Him. The people are to sanctify themselves because tomorrow the Lord will do wonders. Like I said, that's faith. Faith in what God has promised without seeing it happen yet. According to God's plan, Joshua instructed the priests to take up the Ark of the Covenant and cross over before the people. They were to take the Ark down to the river. When you come to the edge of the water of the Jordan, you shall stand in the river. So this was the time of harvest, and at this time, the banks were overflowing. It was a time of a huge flood. So not only do you have a river to cross, you have a flooded river to cross. And it said when the priests put their feet in the water, they had to exercise faith because it was so flooded. The rapid flow of the current made it a little bit more dangerous, yes, but as soon as their feet dipped into the edge of the waters came down from upstream, stood still, and rose. And in verse 17 it says that the priest with the ark stood firm on dry land. Dry land underneath a river. It wasn't muddy. It was dry land. Meanwhile, all the people completely crossed the Jordan. The new, younger generation now experienced God's power personally. They have heard God and now seen God in action. See, the Lord challenges our faith today when we walk. When we, like the Israelites, respond in faithful obedience, the world will see God at work. Sometimes we feel like we're put through fire, yet God has His hand on the thermostat. He knows the heat required to melt away all the impurities that would hinder His purpose in your life. He knows the heat required to burn away the impurities that would hinder His purpose in your life. His hand will fan the flame that's needed to teach you patience, forgiveness, faith, and many other lessons. We need His molding. We might not like it, but we need it. The third thing that God does for us when we're going through an obstacle is He keeps His promise. God gave specific instructions to Joshua. I want to read chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. And it says, when the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carry them over with you, and put them down in the place where you stay tonight. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them, go over before the ark of the Lord, your God, into the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask you, What do these stones mean? Tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever. So, like I said, God gave Joshua specific instructions. And everyone completely crossed the Jordan. He wanted 12 stones in the middle. And those stones are supposed to be a memorial for the children of Israel forever. From that time on, the stones would remind the nation that God always keeps His promise. We all have stones in our life. As I look back at my life, I see many stones. I'll call them milestones. These are memorial stones of experience where God has proven Himself faithful. When the going is tough, I look back at those memorial stones and remember that God is faithful. The history of our church is rich in memorial stones too. The building was built with love and care. Through thick and thin, God has always provided our needs. Every obstacle we face, we will overcome with the trust in God. So don't fear for the future. Don't fear for the current of the river. Don't shrink back from the obstacles. On the other side is the promise that God has given us. God is faithful. He will keep His promises. The obstacles are nothing if we cross in His strength. In chapter 4, verse 24, last verse of that chapter, it says this: He did this so that all the people of the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful, and so that you might always fear the Lord your God. God's whole purpose for His people is that through them the world might know Him. His mighty acts through them were for a testimony to the world for His glory. He's doing the same thing today through each and every single one of us and through this church. So I want to conclude on this, and I want you to think about, because God is here for us. We all go through obstacles in life differently. But there's two options. We can either be a chicken or a duck that's thrown into a pond. We may behave like the chicken, struggling, making lots of noise with our heads down and our legs up. Or we can be like the duck, happily going around when thrown into the pond, with the head held high and legs down. However, if you take the time to look a little closer, when I said God is molding us, and we might not like it, but we need it. If we take a closer look at what He is molding us into through these obstacles, through these barriers, you'll find that God's work is transforming you into something beautiful. So today, I want us to trust in God. Because every obstacle that we go through may not be easy, but as long as we trust in Him, it's going to be okay. Some of you today may be going through an extreme obstacle, and you don't want to do it by yourself anymore. I ask you to come here and accept Jesus so that you don't have to do it by yourself. Because with Him, you will get through that river. Or Or if you're just going through an obstacle right now and you need prayer, I encourage you to come up here. I will pray with you. We can get through this together. You will overcome. Please stand as we sing the song of invitation.